when I learned that power of meditation, being able to clear my mind and go to a place of not fear, it really started to give me perspective.
Akeem was always there to show up. He showed up in everything.
Sometimes you need a little bit of tough love and somebody to give you a perspective.
He's kind of like the glue to my village. Like, he keeps me in check.
I remember having those panic attacks, the anxiety in my stomach, and I never told anyone. When you mentor other people, they give you so much perspective. One of the things I now know to do is to look back with gratitude and to see how far I've come. I was able to be, that voice that I never had. Yeah, I didn't get into it because I thought I was gonna be a mental health helper, I can tell you that much. I started off volunteering in like Ready Reader type programs with preschoolers and kindergartners and in college, and I always enjoyed, being able to help kids. They're just fun to work with. But I thought that, I would only work with someone for like 8 months and then they're gone. And so as I was thinking about, I was in a transitionary period in my life where I was leaving a career in corporate America and getting into entrepreneurship. And I was like, man, I want to have a real long-term impact. And I always knew about Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I said, hey, why not? So I signed up. Now, I still did not think it was gonna have anything to do with mental health. But I'll tell you, it was about maybe 3 or 4 months into our match, and I had 3 missed calls from Tyrell. Now, I would later come to find out that he would call me 3 times a day anyway, but back then, he just had my phone number, so I didn't have a lot of phone calls. And it must have been a holiday because I was out of town. I got 3 missed calls, and I'm like, oh man, what's going on? My little brother, there's something wrong. So I call him up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he was very upset, and he told me the story about his biological father, and who hadn't been in his life, and they got into this big blow-up argument after not talking for a long time, and I could tell he was very distressed. And we dove really deep into, what had happened, how he felt about it, all of these times throughout his life that he was really, impacted by the absenteeness of his father. And I would later go on to ask him, we had this deep conversation. We barely know each other. We probably met 6 or 7 times. And I later went on to ask him, why, did you come to me back then? Why did you do that? And he said, it was his first panic attack he had ever had. And he needed someone to turn to that was gonna listen in a way that no one had listened. And I think that, looking back on it now, I remember being that kid. I remember having those panic attacks, the anxiety in my stomach, and I never told anyone, ever, until I was 22 years old, the first time I ever saw a therapist. I didn't even know what it was. I remember having those times where you have those feelings and you just don't know how to explain it to yourself. And so it was, for me, that was what made this so rewarding, was I was able to be, that voice that I never had to someone else. And so I think that what makes Big Brothers Big Sisters so unique in that mentorship aspect is that, man, you can give something to a child that they otherwise wouldn't get. And I only know that because I didn't receive it.
Akeem was always there to show up. He showed up in everything. Like, everything I asked Akeem, hey, can you come over here real quick? He's there. Oh, do you have time to talk? We literally talk every day. I tell him about everything, to school life, to personal life, even to my mental health. And that's how this bond of me and Akeem really build and really been as big as it can be, I feel like. Because he was there even when people wasn't, when family wasn't there, when friends wasn't hearing me out. He was there, he sat down, we talked about it. We probably repeated the same conversation 15 different times, but we got through it and we showed up.
I was gonna say, if I could, sometimes showing up is not the way he would like for me to show up. But I believe that sometimes you need a little bit of tough love and somebody to give you a perspective that is not necessarily the perspective that he always wants me to give him, but it's the one that I think he needs. And one thing that I can say about Terrell that I've always you know, I honestly found kind of fascinating is that when I give him that feedback, which is totally counter to what he wanted to hear, he like accepts it. And 70 or 80% of the time he does it. And you know, for a 16-year-old, that's pretty good. That's really good, honestly. And you know, I just think about myself, a lot of those things I wouldn't even have shared with anybody. And so I really credit Big Brothers Big Sisters because he has that space, that safe space to share those things that, you know, sometimes you don't want to tell a parent. You know, a lot of parents don't have us in therapy. And so it's like you need somebody to be able to get that feedback from that's going to give it to you in a way that's like, hey, here's the real deal.
The biggest thing I can speak on with him is really, he taught me how to be patient because like everything don't come quickly. I saw it when we went to the Arch. I was trying to make sales and I'm trying to sell this product. People kept on saying no to me at first. It was probably like 5 or 10 people. I'm like, forget it. We gonna come back a different day. He's like, no, we gonna sit here until you make a sale, Tyrell. And really.
And at the time, this was the shyest kid in the world, okay? The first person he walked up to, he's like, excuse me, can I have some money to sell you? And I was like, you selling him some money? You're gonna get us arrested. But when I tell you, like the way he came out of his shell, and I had just started my business, and you talked about that reciprocal piece, like after I had him come out and help me, I couldn't give up, so he really helped me there. But when I tell you, like the way this kid blossomed, he went from, you know, trying to sell money at the Arch. I'm so serious. He made his first sale probably because the woman felt sorry for him. But about 3 years later, I went on a show called Shark Tank, and we had to make a video, and I had to make a video about my business, and I had this program where I had kids working for me at the mall, and he was one of them. And like, when I tell you this kid looked so good on that video, like he got me on Shark Tank. So it was just, it was really, man, honestly, I can't be more proud because it's incredible. Now, he didn't get a chance to mention, but he actually works in the mental health field. At his freshman year in college, he's already working at a mental hospital, which is incredible. Like, come on, that's incredible. Full scholarship because he's a published author. So, I'm proud I had a tiny little piece to play. You know, when I first got into this, I just thought it was gonna be, you know, I'll take them to the mall, go get my car washed. You know, it's gonna be very casual. And they pitch it to you in Big Brothers Big Sisters, very casual. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna see them like once, twice a month. It's gonna be easy. And, you know, that doesn't sound very rewarding. It's just like, oh, I'm volunteering. But what ended up happening is this has really become one of my best friends, you know, and as I think in my life, I was building a company, and whenever I would like, you know, be with her, I remember I got my very first like big boy office, and we had this big wide open space, and we were working on the book, and I remember Tyrell came down. We spent all Saturday. Like, I was like, we need to get this done. We're behind schedule. We got to edit, blah, blah, blah. And we're just sitting there. And I had been feeling very stressed because, you know, I got employees now and we're shipping stuff and all these things are happening. And when he came in and we were just sitting there and we were editing, and I was just seeing the progress. And this was when he was 15 years old. So we've been together about 2 years. When I was just seeing the progress, I think one of the things that I now know to do is to look back with gratitude and to see how far I've come. And because I had started my company literally like a month before I met Tyrell, and I was seeing how far he had come and how far I had come and how far we had come together, it was like one of those things where he's helping me, I'm helping him, and we're just growing together. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that answered your question, but that was just one of those moments for me. It's like burned in my brain of us like sitting in the office that Saturday all day. When we were doing the book, that first book, you know, I told you that story about when he called me about his dad. Well, in my opinion, one of the most consequential stories in that book, the very last story that anchored the book, was this same story about his dad. And it had some very personal things in it. So personal, some people were saying, don't put all that information stuff in the book. But what I had seen with Tyrell was that when he took what had just really tormented his soul for so many years and wrote it down and put it on paper, it was and I would like to hear like how you felt about it. But for me, looking in, it was like, wow, he's finally free of this. And that was something for me that was just like, man, that's powerful. And so for me, it gave me chills because I'm like, I'm just helping him put this book together, but you see there's something much bigger that was happening. Yeah, for me, over the years, I kind of picked some things up, but I would say the big one for me is meditation. Being an entrepreneur especially, it's very lonely, it's very difficult. It's a constant struggle for any of you out there that have your own practices, that run your own firms. It can get very tough. And so when I learned that power of meditation, of just being able to clear my mind and go to a place of not fear, not looking at the future, not looking at the past, it really started to give me perspective to just be in that moment, in that now place. And then I mentioned the other big one for me too is gratitude. And one of the reasons I love, being a mentor, not just even in Big Brothers Big Sisters, but just in life, is that when you mentor other people, they give you so much perspective. And there's just so many times where I'm like, oh, my life, this is so hard, it's terrible. And then you mentor someone and they come in, they're like, whoa, your life, oh, it's so amazing. And you're like, man, I need a little bit of perspective. And so having that gratitude pieces, for me, those are the two that make a big impact.